UN 영어뉴스. The Greek island homes hidden from pirates. Faced with the threat of invaders, Icaria residents adopted an audacious strategy, moving their homes into the mountains so that the island would appear abandoned from the sea. Sailing towards the North Asian island of Icaria around dusk, its craggy peaks rising steeply from the narrow stretch of rocky shore. I noticed the twinkles of lights from houses were not primarily along the coast, as is the case with most Greek islands, but were predominantly scattered in the mountains behind. I wondered, why would the inhabitants make life tougher for themselves by choosing to live on the precipitous slopes far from the more level ground near the sea. I soon found out that the sea was both Icaria's blessing and curse. It allowed the island to spread its reputation for its excellent and potent Pramnian wine, and trade its prized product across ancient Greece, along with olives and honey. But the sea also brought pirates, lured by the island's highly regarded produce and the prosperity it brought. Icaria was not unique within Greece in being beleaguered by pirates, but it suffered the additional complication of a revolving door of rulers: the Persian Empire, the Delian League Association of Greek city-states, the Romans, the Byzantine Empire, the Republic of Genoa, and the Knights of St. John, all exercised varying degrees of influence over Icaria. Between 500 BC and 1521 CE, at which point Icaria fell firmly into the Ottoman Empire, where it would remain for more than 3 centuries. But due to its geography, the island was always an outpost of whichever territory it was within, and regular periods of instability, along with inadequately policed coastlines, allowed piracy to flourish. While piracy was first reported on Icaria in the 1st century BC, it became a more or less unchecked threat during Roman rule, late 3rd century BC to 5th century CE, and Byzantine rule, 5th to 12th centuries CE. Then, after the arrival of the Genoese in the 14th century, Icarians resorted to destroying their own ports to deter invaders. Even this act was not enough. Lacking resources to repel their aggressors, islanders decided to call their bluff. They withdrew deep into their mountainous interior, going to every possible length to convince anyone sailing past that Icaria was deserted by building communities that were ostensibly invisible, at least in the days before electricity. It was this elaborate and audacious disappearing act, pulled off by islanders for several centuries, that I'd come to learn more about. I met Eleni Mazzari in an office in the North Coast port of Evdilos. Mazzari runs a real estate business, but the wall inside the entranceway indicated her other long-standing passion, Icaria history. Here, shelves were lined with models of the types of homes the retreat islanders decided to build, commonly known as anti-pirate houses. These squat, stone-built dwellings incorporated natural features of the landscape, such as rocks, cliff overhangs, and thickets, boulders, which was true over the high mountain slopes, often formed much of the walls and ceiling, while dry stone walls made up the other walls. Living arrangements were simple. Houses had little more than a door and a horse, as islanders would spend the majority of their time outdoors. It was a total reversal of the sort of structure most people associated with Greece, said Mazzari, who has been fascinated by anti-pirate houses for years, photographing them and collecting all available literature on them. The age of grand temples was over. Icarians were building homes designed to be seen by no one, and to do it they had to go high up into the wilderness, where they could not be observed from sea. There would have been many occasions from Roman times onward when they would have temporarily hidden in the mountains from invaders, so the possibility of doing so was always in their minds if it were needed. It was the incorporation of Icaria into the Ottoman Empire that persuaded Icarians to completely decamp from the coast to the cracks. The Ottomans proceeded to rule Icaria laxly, allowing the buccaneering to run rife as a means of disrupting and discouraging sea trade from other states. The choices facing Icarians under such threat were limited. Fight with scant means at their disposal to their probable deaths, vacate the island for safer shores, or seek sanctuary in the safety of the mountains. This time, however, it would be a long-term move. Islanders would conceal their society in the rocky upper reaches of Icaria's Atlas Range, for the next 300 years. This period was dubbed the Piratic Epoch, Pirate Era, with the early years tellingly known as the Century of Obscurity. It was a self-sustained society, down to the courthouse, the narrow terraces on which they grew wine, olives, reared goats, made honey, explained Marjorie. Icarians have always been used to creating something out of not very much. So what to outsiders might seem like uninhabitable mountain land was not so to our ancestors. If people's homes stayed invisible to pirates, it was worth resettling. As I drove along the island's north coast and looked into what is affectionately known as Icaria's Wild West, it seemed to me that the craggy island interior would be hard to inhabit even today. The terrain was arid, rocky, and virtually deserted. Mountainsides plummeted so sharply into the sea there was scarcely enough level ground to carve out a plot for a house or for a road to twist along its edge. My destination was Lagkada, the place to which many Icarians decided to retreat. This upland refuge holds a sacred spot in islanders' hearts. Without it, the population would likely have died out. The trek to get there was so steep and rough for me to attempt driving, so I walked up a route that wound hair-raisingly around the rock face into a rushy valley you never could have seen from below. Here, still without any sign to indicate it, and further concealed behind olive groves and some really shaped boulders, was the cradle of Icaria's anti-pirate civilization. Despite knowing there were numerous anti-pirate houses in the vicinity, I wandered up and down the valley for several hours and found none. It was only on a final scan of the valley from above that I caught sight of an aperture in a rock too angular to be naturally occurring. I had found the community's old jail. The effort I had expended. There's no information, boards or options for a guided tour. Made me appreciate how adept islanders were at constructing dwellings that completely merge into the landscape. Life must have been tough for them, constantly under the threat of pirate attack, and knowing that camouflaging into this harsh landscape was their sole defense. My next stop was further inland, to the Affian's family winery. Besides being producers of some of Icaria's finest wine, owner Nikos and his daughter F.T. Chia are well-regarded experts on the island's history. and they had agreed to show me the anti-pirate house on their property. On Icaria, we have no shortage of boulders, smiled Chia, explaining that boulders determined the location and the aspect of most anti-pirate houses. The boulder formed as much of the house structure as its shape allowed, 1 or 2 walls, and maybe, if the boulder had an overhang, the roof. If the land was too steep to make a flat plot, as it usually was, people would labor to dig the rocks out of the earth to create level terraces. She added that traditionally you'd always build back from the boulder on the landward side, so the structure could not be seen from the sea, and because suitable boulders are naturally widely dispersed, so the communities became 2, which meant there was less chance of everyone being discovered if pirates did invade. She said, we stepped inside their anti-pirate house, now used for storing wine. The thick walls, Nichols explained, would have ensured it stayed cool during hot summers and retained heat in winter. Locals went to additional efforts to make their settlements invisible to outsiders. The structure would be low, 1 story only, and lower than the maximum height of the boulder, said Chia. In addition, houses were built without chimneys to avoid giveaway columns of smoke. Instead, 1 stone on each side of the mortarless walls would be removed, while the hearse was in use, allowing smoke to subtly dissipate. People would only interact at night, according to Mazar. In the pirate era, they would rarely even keep dogs for fear the sound would alert invaders. Anti-pirate houses may have been erected as emergency retreats, but they had a lasting effect on Icarian society long after warships dispatched by the US, Britain, France, and Russia finally brought privateering in the Asia to an end during the 1820s. The tendencies for villages to remain mountain-based and scattered, and for islanders to enjoy staying up late into the night, are both attributed to the pirate era. Even places of worship built in anti-pirate style survive, such as Theos Capacity Chapel, that dramatically squeezes into a boulder overhang near Avdilos. As for Ragkada, while it seemed to be that the one-time center of pirate era life is now abandoned, that's not quite true. There's still at least one man living there permanently because said his family never moved away. Most of us see him only when we go to Lagkada's Panigiri festival, which he organizes. The rest of the year, he must be surrounded by ghosts